Welcome to the Big Scope interviews, and today we're talking to the president of the London chapter of the Global Blockchain Association and the founder of the TheGrape.Tech ICO venture audit system. So, Tommy Jamet, welcome to the show. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, it's the TheGrape.Tech and the government documentation. Got it right.
So, Tommy, before we get into ICOs and all that, just what is the Global Blockchain Association?
So the Government Blockchain Association started in Washington about a year ago, and the overall point was initially to set up meetings with to bring governments, regulators, and civil society to meet this groundbreaking blockchain technology people. So they're not necessarily two worlds that can understand each other in the first place quite easily. And the point of the association was at the time to bring those two worlds together. So it started a year ago, and now we've got 50 chapters in the world and 3,000 members as well.
Okay, great. So that sounds like an association that's desperately needed. So what about TheGrape.Tech? Why did you found TheGrape.Tech?
So basically, it's all come back to what I did when I started into blockchain and into cryptocurrencies. I was really amazed by the technology, but in the meantime, I was a bit frustrated to see such great technology being kind of wasted by all of those frauds and scams, and people wanted to basically take credit for and take advantage of lack of regulations. So I decided to turn my angle and to do everything, to have everything that I would do around ICO, blockchain economy, around trying to get that in the place. So I joined the Government Blockchain Association to do that, and I've also created this company, TheGrape.Tech, that basically do pre-ICO audit work, and also we're launching an accounting services on crypto assets.
Okay. So that's an interesting point you bring up because everyone thinks of ICOs today and you think of scams, and that's something that a lot of people go through. But you work on the other side of the fence, right? So you work with the ICO developers. How is that? How easy is it to get an ICO off the ground? Is it really as easy as people make it out to be?
So I guess there's two things here. I think people at the moment, well, I guess until the end of 17 and maybe still a bit now, but people try to and tend to forget that when you create an ICO, when you launch an ICO project, you're also launching a company and you're launching a business. And it doesn't really matter if your technology is great or if you're actually solving an issue, which is not always the case. You also have to understand the overall scope of what you have to do when you launch a business. So you have to look at the legal aspect, you have to look at the accounting aspect, you have to look at marketing, you have to look at the overall finance function, the overall admin function that a normal company would do. And it's just like blockchain and the token comes on top of that. But it's not all to have a great token ID. You have to be able to deliver that through a normal company. And I guess there's a lot of projects that kind of fail to understand that.
So, all right, so that makes a lot of sense. But I gotta ask you, why should companies run an ICO instead of an IPO? It seems like a much more convoluted way to raise funding.
Well, it used to, and I guess if we were having this conversation maybe 9 months ago or 10 months ago, I would have said yes. I guess now the community is getting more and more informed and gets a lot of more and more educated around what ICOs are, what they are not. So I guess now if today you want to launch an ICO, you still can do it with quite a great ease of work compared to doing like an IPO or getting public funding. But there's for example, a few countries that have started to require a bit more information around what's behind what's behind the ICO.
So, okay, so now we've got through, okay, why ICOs, why it's easier to use ICOs nowadays. But building an ICO, you've worked with a lot of them, especially with TheGrape.Tech. You've worked with a lot of people who want to build ICOs, and we've seen in the last 9 months, 10 months, ICOs that go into the hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's a lot of money to be made here because there's a lot of people who want to invest in blockchain technology. So I have to ask you, working on this side of the ICOs, how do you differentiate between someone who comes to you with a good ICO and someone who comes to you with a scam? I mean, what are there specific steps you put in place?
Yeah, so that's exactly an approach we had with the team at the Grape. Basically, we kind of split that into four categories. So there's a first category of maybe 10, 15% of projects that are literally scam frauds, and they're just trying to get away with money. Sorry, can you hear me right? This camera gets right. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tommy, I can't hear you. Can you say that last bit again?
Yeah, sorry. So you've got the first 15% of projects that are purely frauds and are pure con artists. They're trying to get away with money. They are frauds. Then you've got a category that is actually they're not necessarily bad projects, but they have nothing to do with blockchain, and they're trying to do an ICO. Those projects shouldn't do an ICO because their solution, what they're trying to solve, could be done without token. It doesn't need decentralization. It doesn't need the technology. It could be great, but with normal VC funding. And I guess that's the kind of danger with this space. There's a lot of hype behind cryptocurrency, behind ICOs, and people try to use that technology for purposes that wouldn't require the technology in the first place if it wasn't hype. Then you've got another category of, yeah.
So can you just give me an example of like an ICO that doesn't use blockchain? I mean, because just for our viewers, it doesn't have to be a specific example, but just an example of a company that is trying to do an ICO but doesn't use blockchain tech. What would that be?
Well, for example, I'm not gonna point any finger or anything. It's not the point. But you've got some projects, for example, that are trying to. I don't know. For example, I've seen a paper for a company that is trying to tokenize to tokenize something. So to create a token. So when you want to refuel your car, you don't even have to get out of your car, and the token basically allow you to pay the gas station with the token. And those kind of projects. You also had a project a while ago for building the biggest aquarium in the world. So it's basically it's a good idea, just nothing to do with decentralization, and it's just you've got a lot of ventures that just don't. You've got projects that don't need a token, and then you also have projects that manage to finish the ICO, but then eventually they ended up not sure about what they want to do with all of that money, and they are trying to find a problem to solve, and that's another issue as well.
So what do you say to all the people who say that ICOs can replace IPOs? I mean, you don't necessarily need to have a decentralized project to have a token. You can have the token purely for funding reasons.
You know what? I think it is a way of funding that's kind of we're discovering the potential of tokenization at the moment, and by talking to a few people on what's their view of this new economy. ICOs have basically ICO. What does an ICO do? It just allows you to not go through the normal route of VC funding when you don't have enough traction. That's really what it does. So now we're looking also at venture funds or hedge funds that are looking for good blockchain projects to invest in. So I think eventually we're going to see a little. Obviously, there's never going to be 2,000 cryptocurrencies living in a mature environment. That's not going to collapse. But eventually, I think the funding purpose of ICO, the very nature of ICOs will not collapse. It's just going to remain something that is done for a very specific purposes, and that's going to be defined more clearly in the months or in the few quarters that will come. And then when you're going to have some kind of regulation or some kind of either self-regulation or regulation from government, then at this time it's going to be healthy enough for people to trust that, because it's a matter of trust we're talking about here, isn't it? People fear ICOs because they don't trust them. Government and banks don't allow ICO projects to open bank accounts or to get registered because they don't trust them. So there's a massive trust issue here, and I guess it's going to get better and better as the industry matures. But I think the key here is really for the industry to regulate itself and to gain that trust from the historical industry.
So is that something you're working with governments across the planet with the Global Blockchain Association? Is that something you're working towards, regulation of ICOs?
So it's a bit broader than that. What we're trying to do is to show government that we don't work only on ICOs. We are really interested in blockchain technology, and what we're saying is we invite government to we facilitate the discussion between government and blockchain solutions. So, for example, government that would like to have a land titling solution for their land registry, then we would invite land titling solution on blockchain and government around the same table or around the same event, and then we would basically help them to talk to each other.
Right.
We also answer to, for example, when the French government issued a discussion paper for advices from the industry around how to regulate cryptocurrency. Then we use our global working group to address those papers. So we reply to government directly when they call for answers, or we also facilitate the discussion through them.
Okay. So now I've got to ask you, for our viewers out there who are thinking about investing in ICOs, what would be your view when looking at ICOs? If you were just a normal investor, how would you disclose this ICO is good, this ICO is bad?
So I guess if you're, first of all, you have to understand that if you invest in an ICO, you don't only invest in a token, you don't invest in a coin, you invest in a project, you invest in a team, and you invest in a vision. If you can't see that clearly in a white paper or website, if it's not clearly defined, who is the team, what's the background, what did they try to achieve, and mostly what is the point of having a token? Can the project be done without a token? Is the token essential, or is the token just an excuse to do an ICO? If the token is just an excuse, then it might not be that relevant to do an ICO, so you might want to.
Okay. So then, considering everything we've talked about, I think there's something I have to ask you. The upcoming ICO, the Telegram ICO, is predicted to be the biggest ICO of all time, and probably will be the biggest ICO for a while. So I've got to ask, with all you're talking about, is there a need for blockchain here? Is there a need for a good white paper? What do you think of the Telegram ICO? Do you think it's worth all that money?
So there's also something that's a good one as well, and there's a risk if you look at it on the finance side. What's going to drive the value of the token? It's going to be the company valuation, really. So if the thing is, by opening this ICO to basically uncapping it, Telegram is basically allowing as many people as they want to buy in. And what the risk is, and we've seen that with Bankroll, with Tezos, with other big ICOs that happened in the past, with EOS as well, where you don't necessarily cap it, or if you cap it really, really high, then you end up with basically, if what creates the value of a token is the scarcity and is the fact that not everyone can get in, and then if it creates frustration, then you're gonna have more people want to jump. Then you're gonna drive value up. If in the case of those massive ICOs, if you basically welcome as many people to join in and to buy in, then when the token is live, you've basically got something close to an unlimited supply of tokens. So the value of the token has no reason to go higher than what was actually initially reasoned. So in terms of tokenomics, in terms of the way the token will fluctuate, I don't have a crystal ball. But if I would be quite cautious with very large ICOs like that have initial market cap set up very high. Because it's a bit difficult to think that the token will double in value if the company is already massively valued.
Right. So then, I mean, we've got to go. So Telegram, that's a fair assessment, I think. But I've got to go from there to possibly one of the bigger unhappy ICOs. So the Venezuelan's government's attempt at starting an ICO for the Petro coin. What do you think of that?
Yeah. So that one's another interesting one, actually. And I was talking about that with a few people that kindly agreed to contribute to the paper on Venezuela. And what we agree is that what Venezuela is doing is very interesting. They are basically Venezuela main asset is oil, and the country main asset is oil. And what they're doing by creating tokens is that they're tokenizing.
Can you repeat the last sentence? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. So Venezuela main asset, the country main asset is oil. So what Venezuela is doing actually is that they are turning their country main asset into a token. They're tokenizing the country's main resources, and by doing that, that will allow them to cut free from the need for national currency. They could basically end up having basically buying gold with oil. That they wouldn't need. By doing that, they free themselves from the national currency. They could basically buy anything else with this new token, and it's a very interesting approach to have. I'm not saying it's dodgy, it's not dodgy. I'm not arguing with the legal aspect of it. I'm just saying in terms of use of tokenization, that would be a way to get back to pre-money era, where you could basically trade wood for stone or for wool or for flour. You could have tokenized assets that are basically currencies that you could use to buy all the goods without actual money. So it's really interesting what's happening in Venezuela. The country is also known to have a massive inflation. So it's also a way to hedge the country from inflation, but now it also has to be done for the right reason, with like all the corruption and everything that's in Venezuela. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of that behind.
So, but I've got to ask you, if the Venezuelan currency, which is linked to the oil-backed assets, is doing so poorly, why would the token be any different?
Because they are direct. So the Venezuela currency is not directly linked to the oil barrel. The Venezuela currency is obviously by government, and then whenever there's a need for, when there's a need for more money. Yep. Sorry, back.
Your sound is cut out for a bit there.
Sorry. Is that better now?
Yeah.
So what's happening with the national currency in Venezuela is you have a massive inflation. So whenever inflation as in every country is driven by government needing more, issuing more central money because they are in debt, so they just issue the national debt to pay public services, and then they basically grow the amount of available money in the country, and it devalues the value of each individual dollar in the country. So by doing this cryptocurrency pegged into the barrel, you wouldn't have the possibility for inflation, because the amount of token would be set at the time of the ICO. So it would have inflation.
Okay, so Tommy, thank you so much for joining us. That was Tommy Jamet, the president of the London chapter of the Global Blockchain Association and TheGrape.Tech. Both things that you should look into if you've got any interest in how the blockchain world is going to develop. Thank you so much for joining us, Tommy.
Thanks, Doug.
This has been The Big Scope interviewing Tommy Jamet.